So yeah, in the gamers community, my name is Khalid, and this is my very first video on Khalid the Programmer's channel. For those who don't know, I decided to become a game developer. And of course, I have no experience at all. I don't know how to code, and I don't know anything. But the one thing I do know is that making games is super easy. Open Unity, click the add weapons. Then click the add map button and click the run game button. Yeah, that's what I thought it was like until I dug deeper into it and realized that everything you want to add to the game needs coding. You want to add a floor, coding. You want the player to move, that's coding. You want the player to get more score when they grab coins, you need coding. Literally everything, every single thing I want to do in my game needs programming. And I have zero experience with programming. The only thing I know is that if I type print and put something in parentheses, it'll show whatever's inside the print. And as for how to actually run the print, I honestly have no idea. So that's why I decided to learn programming and challenge myself to make a game within 72 hours. So I set myself a deadline, which was just 1 week to learn programming. So to learn programming, I needed to find an explanation that was really good and in Arabic. I searched YouTube a lot, but couldn't find any tutorial. But I remember there was this Arab programmer named Beyond who had made a beginner programming course. Welcome to the Unity course for beginners. And yeah, I mean, I'm a beginner. So I decided to go sign up for the course and start learning. I literally spent the whole week learning from his course. Honestly, I won't lie to you guys, even though I hate anything to do with studying or learning, but still, his explanation was absolutely amazing. Through Byung Point's course, I was able to learn a lot of stuff in programming, and I was able to get all the basics. So anyway folks, a whole week has gone by and it's done. I can officially say I now know all the basics of programming. I know how to use Unity, I know how to organize my files, I literally know everything. So to make a cool game, we needed to have an idea for it. And the idea that popped into my head was a game called Ninja Doors. You've got ninjas you're trying to take out, and once you take them out, the door opens and you move on to the next level. And the idea is really cool. And of course you won't do it. We'll start a new project and call it Ninja Doors. First thing when I open the engine, I'll throw together a quick floor and then I'll add some movement code. And for some reason the player kept spinning in place, lots of tweaking. Finally, I got the player movement working and decided to tweak the player's look too, because right now he looks like a bean. And after tweaking the look, this was the final result. Man, the result is insane. Just a small note. In this video, I'm gonna be using a lot of ready-made assets since I'm still new and I don't model or design stuff myself. Guys, after seeing how the player looked, I decided to make an animation for the sword, when. So yeah, this is how it turned out, okay? The animation turned out pretty good, but inshallah with time we'll get better. Oh, and I forgot to tell you something. I want you to subscribe to the channel, because when we hit 100,000 subscribers, I'm gonna do a face cam. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see the face cam. And after we finish the sword animation, I decided to add something else to make the game more fun, which is basically stuff the player can throw, kinda like a ninja. So first thing, I made a script that lets the player throw balls just as a test, and it actually worked out. Then I changed the ball's shape to look like the ones the ninja throws. And it turned out, guys, it looks super awesome for some reason. Guys, I decided to make the player throw other players just for fun. Anyway guys, I started making these ball-like things the player can pick up. So every time they grab a ball, they get a fork to throw, because it just doesn't make sense for the player to be throwing 1 million forks. That way the player will literally become OP and no one will be able to kill them. And I also tweaked the cooldown so he can't throw 1 million hits back to back. After that, I tweaked the map's layout a bit because I wanted to add monsters to the game. So I grabbed a lion, then I grabbed an asset, then I brought it in. So I grabbed a ready-made ninja lion. But I realized if I want him to catch up with me, it's gonna take a lot of time, and I only have 72 hours to work with, and my experience is barely beginner level in programming. So I decided, folks, to make the enemy look like a bee, and it turned out the enemy looks so awesome it deserves a Nobel Prize. Anyway, I started making some AI for the enemy, because without AI the enemy would just stand there like a statue. Either way, he's basically a duck, and I found out it's artificial stupidity, literally. I'm no longer convinced by the theory that robots take over the world someday. I mean, why was I even convinced by that theory? Anyway, finally, after all your effort, I managed to get the bots to follow me and stop at a distance so they don't get right up in my face. And for some reason, I spawned 1 million enemies to test how fast my PC goes. Anyway, after we wrapped up the duck protests, I started making some code to make the enemy throw stuff, since he's an enemy without a sword or anything. Totally pointless. So I made it, guys, so that the enemy throws a spike. No. Okay, I went back and fixed up the code again, and this time the enemy throws spikes in a really awesome way. Alright, after we finish the code for the enemy that makes him throw stuff, now it's time to give the enemy some health, so that when I hit him, he dies. Right now, when I hit him, nothing happens. And I started making an animation for the enemy, so that when he dies, he kind of flies up into the sky. Unfortunately, it didn't work and I wasted hours on it. So anyway, after I set up the enemy's health, I decided to make a particle effect so that when the enemy dies, this particle shows up. And turns out guys, the particle effect looks absolutely awesome even though I'm still a beginner at programming. After that, I started working on some code. So when I take out one of the enemies, the door opens somehow. The way I did it was by giving the player a score. Every time the player takes down someone, they get 1 point. And for the door to open, it needs a certain number of points. For example, if there are 5 enemies, then the door needs 5 points to open. And man, I spent so many hours trying to get this method right. But in the end, it worked out. When I take out the enemies in the level, the door opens. I got lazy to make him an animation because there was no time. And when I tell you there was no time, I only had 2 hours left in the challenge and I still hadn't done anything. Not gonna lie to you, I was playing a lot of Valorant and just wasting time, you know, but now I've only got 2 hours left. I could definitely get a lot done in those 2 hours, so I started working as fast as I could, just cranking things out quickly. I added 3 monsters in there, 2 small ones, and one of them is the boss. I added a spot for the end of the game and started adding a spike counter. So every time the player picks up one of these points, a spike shows up at the top left, so they can see how many spikes they've got. I also added a health bar for the player and made a menu that shows up when they first enter the game, and for some reason it only has a play button. And the only way to quit the game is to click. Look, I didn't have time guys, okay? Don't blame me. And now folks, that's it. I've completely finished the game in its time. Let me show you the worst gameplay in the world, okay? And that's it. This was my game. I know it's really crappy and bad, but I've only been in the game development field for a week and I still managed to make a game like this.